Hello and welcome back to the Liberland Show. I'm your host, Adam J. Carswell, joined today by the man. You may have seen him here, not on the Liberland Show, but in our circles quite a bit. Michael Cobb of ECI Development is with us here today. And before I forget, also, I do have my Liberland Ranger shirt on. I'm not sure. I think they're for sale on the Liberland Marketplace. We'll get some information for you guys soon. But Mike, great to reconnect with you again, have you here on the show, talk about not only what you're working on at ECI Development, but you have a conference around the corner as well. So let's start on that one. Let's hear about this conference that you've got coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, sure, Adam. Good to see you. I know we got together in at the Arc over in Serbia not too long ago, just about a couple months ago, and a lot of fun there. Great to see you in person, obviously. Yes, we have another in-person live event coming up November 12 through 16 in Las Vegas. It's Joel Nagel's President's Week. This is his 26th year running this conference. And I'll tell you what, man, the speakers that have come in the past are world-class. Harry Brown, he was the Libertarian candidate for president for many years. Jim Rickards has spoken in the past. Last year, Ron Paul was our headliner and keynote speaker. This year, it's Buck Sexton, Porter Stansberry. So again, just an incredible lineup of people, but Buck Sexton, Porter Stansberry this year as the keynote speakers, and Franco Harris, the former running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He will be there as well.
I'm from Cleveland, so I know you're probably more excited about that than I am.
Anyway, yeah. So both Joel and I are from the Pittsburgh area, and we've gotten to know Franco over the years. As an entrepreneur, he has a super bakery. He did after got out of football, whatever. He started some businesses, and the biggest and most famous one is his super bakery, which produces high vitamin nutrient bakery products for schools and things like that. Anyway, so he's coming to talk about that, but obviously he's a football star, so we'll talk about that too.
Does he have a son that's competing right now?
He had a son that ran for mayor of Pittsburgh, I know. I don't know if he has a son in the league. I'll definitely remember to ask him that. Yeah.
I might have just seen Frank Harris recently and thought of him.
That's
I mean, if Franco Harris is hanging out with you, that's pretty cool. As a Browns fan, that means he must have his head screwed on straight if he's hanging out with Mike Cobb.
Well, thank you, Adam. Yeah, he does. He's very entrepreneurial and is a big fan of freedom, and so we're obviously enjoying to have him come out. But Buck Sexton had took over for Rush Limbaugh on the radio network, and then Porter Stansberry. Most people know Porter is just an incredible stock analyst over the years, and he'll be there as well. So and the really nice thing about this conference, Adam, is that it's small. It is limited to 50 people, maxes out at 50 attendees. We have somewhere between 25 and 30 speakers. And so literally, and the other thing is every meal is taken together, starting Saturday night, cocktail party, dinner, all the way through Wednesday, breakfast, the final session that wraps up at lunchtime on Wednesday. Every meal, every event, all speakers and all attendees are there together. And I remember last year, people couldn't believe that they actually got to sit at dinner or breakfast and talk to Ron Paul for half hour, 45 minutes or whatever, and at the cocktail party, mix and mingle. But people had real FaceTime with Ron Paul, and same thing with the other speakers over the years. And that's the benefit of this conference. Capped at 50, and it is fairly expensive. I just say that up front. It's $2,500 for the single, and I think $39.99 or something for the couple or something like that. But the single's a $24.95 ticket, but again, it's all your meals, all the events, and it's that access to people like Buck and Porter, but Joel Nagel, who's probably the world's top asset protection and residency lawyer in the world. He brings in money managers from Austria and Switzerland. He has some gold people coming in, one guy from Switzerland, some other folks from the US, and then brings in just a whole slew of real top experts in both asset protection, offshore diversification, residencies and citizenships around the world. This is just the premier event for that type of information with the world's top experts. So yeah, really exciting to be there and hang out. And by the way, the other thing is to hang out with the other attendees. because the other attendees are freedom-loving individuals who care about asset protection, international diversification. It's a very worldly group of people who come and participate as the attendees. And a lot of times people tell me after the fact that, you know, the speakers and the experts are all great, but they've also really enjoyed meeting people who truly are their peers. Oh, and I forgot to mention the crypto stuff. Paul Rosenberg will be there.
Oh, nice.
Erica. Yeah, Paul Rosenberg, crypto hippie. I mean, he's been a friend of mine for goodness 20 years, and he's spoken numerous times over the years. Erica Gemma will be there. So again, some great people on the crypto space there as well. So yeah, it kind of covers a broad range of things, but with the biggest focus on what Joel calls the defense, right? And a lot of conferences are about offense, right? There are a lot of investment speakers and people, you know, presenting ideas and opportunities. This conference is 2/3 to 3/4 defense, right? It's about how do you protect your assets? How do you protect your freedom? And then with, you know, and I'm there to talk about some of that. I do quite a bit of speaking about the protection of freedom and those kinds of things, but we'll also talk about some opportunities to own property overseas as well. So, yeah.
I view it more from the way you're describing it. It's almost like a retreat. Really?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it kind of it's almost like a big event, but the cap at 50 makes it a VIP only experience. And I know we were talking about how people can reach out and maybe get themselves a ticket prior to the call. I just personally, I've always liked the quantity over quantity approach, which is what is taking place here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doug Kate,
and if folks do want to get an invitation, we set up a special email address that comes to me and my assistant, Liberland@ecidevelopment.com. Somebody sends that and just says something like President's Week. I will make sure you get the information about the conference and also the connection to Mary Alderson, who will be able to secure one of those spots for you. So Liberland@ecidevelopment.com, and we'll get right back to you to connect you up for an invitation.
Love it. And the other thing that I was thinking about that too, and again, the quality piece, this is a brief reference, but my good buddy, Doug Casey, he likes to joke, not joke, but he's like, look, libertarians and anarcho-capitalists and voluntarists, we all have like the greatest mindset. But a lot of them don't have, you know, 2 pennies to pin or whatever the phrase was. Right. So this is cool because you've got the freedom component along with the people who maybe can move or shake a little bit and actually get some things done instead of just talking about it.
Absolutely. And again, that's the idea of coming and making peers, right? Making friends with other people who have, you know, significant net worth. I'll just say it that way. Look, if you're spending $2,500 on an asset protection conference, presumably you've got assets you want to protect, right? And so, right. So the attendee group set is really an incredible group of people, many of them self-made. Very few trust fund babies. I mean, once in a while, a trust fund baby will come through the mix, but generally they're very entrepreneurial people who started with a little or nothing and have built businesses, sold businesses, or in the crypto space, got in early and really developed that piece of their lives out. So it's a fascinating, fun group of people to be around, dynamic. And very optimistic, very enthusiastic and optimistic. I remember one guy, Drew was his name. I won't say his last name, but Drew has been to many of these over the years, maybe he's probably been to 6 or 7 out of 26. And I remember him saying this early on. He said, you know, the reason I come back, because I think maybe the 3rd time, I'm like, Drew, man, I mean, we do it 3rd time, 4th time, whatever. And he goes, no, Mike, he said, I love coming to this because when I'm at home, he lives in Indiana. He says, when I'm at home in Indiana and I talk about my ideas, he's a physician at the hospital or whatever, people tell me 100 reasons why something won't work. He says, I come to President's Week and everyone kind of gets around and talks about, you know, 100 ways that it might work. That to me, that one thing encapsulated the psyche of the people who come to President's Week, right?
Yeah.
It's 100 ideas about how this might work, right? Not 100 reasons why it won't work. And that's why we do get a lot of people who come back, you know, many times over the years, right? It really is a neat group of people. And I'm actually, I love it as an attendee as well as a speaker, but I sit in on the conferences and the presentations because, you know, I I really like the content as well. And I enjoy, the relationships I've made over the years with attendees too. So.
Sure. Wow. Well, looking forward to it. Again, guys, if you want to attend and hang out with Mike, the best way to do that is send an email to liberland@ecidevelopment.com.
Yep.
There you go.
And they'll take crypto. By the way, they'll take crypto too. If you want to, get your ticket with crypto, no problem.
It's a good option.
Yeah.
Buy it in ETH. Hold on to that Bitcoin. I mean, Mike will be happy for you to pay him in Bitcoin.
Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Exactly. Yeah. Visa, MasterCard. I don't, yeah.
So as a speaker, Mike, I've just noticed very clearly with your presentation style, you have gotten to the level of master storyteller. Anytime I've seen you speak, you do have a very good way of just captivating the audience before you make your point. And normally that's through a story. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we want to learn your story here today. I don't know where we really begin, but who is Mike Cobb? Who is this guy that we're talking to right now?
Yeah, it all began with the Big Bang. So, it's interesting. So, in fact, I was just telling the story the other day to somebody. Gosh, it might come to me. Oh, I know who it was. So I was, in fact, it was like 3 days ago. I was in New Orleans speaking at the New Orleans Investment Conference.
Great conference.
And Mark Skousen, Mark and I go way back, long before Freedom, even before Freedom Fest was a conference. I actually had him come and speak at some conferences. And so he and I got to know each other. So I see him at these things. And so he saw me and he goes, Mike, come on out to dinner with us tonight. We're going to go out and see some jazz. Gary Alexander, I don't know if you know the name Gary. He's a big newsletter writer and has been gold and libertarian stuff for a long time. And he says, my friend Walter. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we go to this place called the Palm Court. And it's got, and Gary Alexander has a jazz radio show. He's a jazz historian, but he was also the MC for the New Orleans Investment Conference. So anyway, so we go out to dinner. We get to the Palm Court and we're there early and the jazz band's setting up. And by the way, unbelievable, phenomenal. Palm Court, the place is insane, but the jazz was phenomenal. Anyway, in walks this guy, Walter, we're talking. Anyway, and all of a sudden, like somehow his last name comes up. It's Walter Block. And I don't know if you know Walter Block, wrote a book.
He was on our, so yeah, he was just on our show maybe 2 episodes before you or something like that. So.
Amazing. So anyway, so it's Walter Block. And I'm like, gangster. Oh my God, I know you're, I know your book, right? Defending the indefensible or undefensible, I guess. I can't remember if it's indefensible or undefensible, but defending the undefensible or indefensible. Anyway, 1971 book, right? All about libertarianism and just extreme libertarianism. Anyway, we had a fun night. So he asked me in between the 2 jazz sets, now we can talk jazz, we're just watching and listening. I mean, it was fantastic. Anyway, in between the sets, he goes, so how'd you get involved in libertarianism? And this is what I'm telling him my story. So in high school, I guess middle school and high school, I was pretty much a radical leftist. I mean, I would have called myself a communist. I probably did call myself a communist, right? In college. That
sounds like Walter's story, the way you're going here.
It is Walter's story. That was the thing. I'm like, we just started talking. I'm like, holy smokes, right? So anyway, I joined I remember, this is crazy. So I joined the campus communists, and in the homecoming parade my freshman year, one of the guys, this is great, one of the guys has this, I don't know, beater car, and we literally went out and bought like 10 cans of red spray paint and spray painted his car bright red and hung communist signs off the side and drove it in the homecoming parade to lots of boos and hisses, of course. But anyway, it didn't matter. Anyway, but I remember working at Burger King in high school, and we got paid $3.35 an hour, $3.35 an hour. Didn't matter how hard you worked. It didn't matter how good of an employee you were. Everybody got paid the same because the unemployment in my county, I grew up north of Pittsburgh. We've been talking about Franco Harris and stuff, right? Anyway, I grew up north of Pittsburgh, and this was in the 80s, right? In the late 70s and early 80s. The official unemployment rate was 18% in Butler County. And it probably was higher than that, right? Because people drop off and that kind of stuff. And so basically, if you didn't like the job at $3.35 an hour, you can quit. And there was a line of people wanting to get the job, right? And so I have this interesting experience, and I worked my ass off. I've always worked my ass off, right? But the people who didn't work their ass off got paid the same amount of money. So there's like this data point in my head that's like, causing some dissonance, right? Wait a minute, this communism, everybody, everybody's equal and everyone take care of everybody. And meanwhile, I get to clean the toilets every night. In closing, I'm the guy that has to go clean the toilets because I will clean them really, really well, and I did clean them really well, right? So I got rewarded for my good work by cleaning the bathrooms, right? Anyway, so there's this whole kind of dissonance in my head, and then I remember the nuclear freeze movement was going on in like maybe 84, 85. I don't remember when it was, 83, 84. And I remember how, and I'm a big believer in democracy, right? America's a great democracy. I bought into the whole story and, And then when, 60+% of the US population was, for the nuclear freeze movement and Congress voted it down, like it just shattered my sort of my bigger belief systems, right? It really made me question like my whole belief structure. And I wandered like kind of philosophically for a couple of years. And then I got out, I went into the computer business and I started making a ton of money. I mean, I'm a salesperson, right? So I'm making a ton of money. I'm working, whatever, 80, 100-hour weeks, but making really, really good money. And I'm feeling guilty about it, right? I'm feeling guilty because there's still this residual kind of communist, everybody needs to be equal and take care of everybody and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know who I was telling. I wish I could remember who it was. I was telling like how I felt a little guilty and whatever. And they said, you've got to read Atlas Shrugged. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I read Atlas Shrugged. And I mean, it was this incredible awakening. I was maybe 23, 24 years old. I don't know, something like that. And that was how I became really a libertarian and have moved, closer to an anarchist. I don't like to label myself anything particularly, right. but I'm out there in the freedom movement. I am full on freedom. I believe in personal responsibility. In fact, I'm flying to Prague tomorrow to speak on Saturday morning at the Free Cities Foundation event in Prague on Saturday morning. And the title of my speech is Freedom and Personal Responsibility, Two Sides of the Same Coin. And I truly inherently believe that is absolutely the case, that if we want freedom, we have to take that personal responsibility. The challenge for many of us is that we've lived and worked in this nanny state where we've got every kind of protection known to man, from truth in lending, truth in advertising, consumer laws, lemon laws, right? And just on and on and on. And so we're in this cocoon, in this seller beware environment, which is the US, Canada, Europe, whatever, right? And then we move out of that to freer places, which I love. I mean, I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years, and people can't believe when I say Nicaragua was much freer than the United States. It's way freer, right? But I moved from, seller beware to buyer beware areas. And because I've been kind of edging my way into that space for the last 30 years, I actually wrote a book called The Consumer Resource Guide for Property Ownership Overseas. And really what the book is, it's really an instruction manual to change how we think. How do we go from seller beware, where everything's taken care of, to buyer beware, where we have to take care of everything and we don't know what we don't know, and we bring these assumptions with us that can be dangerous. And so that's where that personal responsibility piece comes in. But if we don't know how to do it, we're at a big disadvantage in this free environment. Again, I'm a huge advocate for freedom, but we need tools to help us prepare to live in a very free environment. I think a lot of us maybe fantasize about what freedom is, and in many ways we're right. I mean, it's wonderful. It can be, right? But in a free environment, it also means other people are free to try to take advantage of us. And it's our responsibility to make sure we look out for ourselves, and we can do it as a community, right? I'm not saying it's all individuals, we all have to be, rugged individualists, right? But I think that it starts there. It starts with the rugged individuals. I have to look out for myself the best, because even if other people are looking out for me, they're probably not looking out for me as well as I'm going to look out for myself, right? but we can do it as a community. And I think that's why conferences like Liberland, like the ARC that we just went to, or the cruise, the Danube cruise earlier in the year, right? I mean, or this conference, the Free Cities Organization, or many of the other events that you and I run to and speak at and things like that, where we are a community. And what's been really exciting for me and for ECI is the ability to take this virtual community or online, phone, whatever we're doing, right? We see each other at conferences in person, and actually turn it into a physical community, a neighborhood where people can actually own a property and have neighbors and folks around them physically who belong in this free society. This is wonderful, Adam. I mean, and I'm just to the end of the story. Started off with campus communists.
I can smell I don't even want to call it a pitch, but I know there's something exciting coming at the end of this.
No pitch. No pitch.
It's not a pitch because I'm going to tell you to talk about it, but I just heard you mention it, and it's like, I fully endorse it already. Keep going.
Thank you, Adam. No, but for me, look, we're all going to die someday, right? And if I get this moment of reflection before I die, I think one of the things that I'm going to be most happy. Look, I'm going to be happy about raising some daughters who don't talk to me very much anymore, but they will again someday, I hope. And we talked about that before we get on. But the point is look, your family is wonderful, and you can be proud of that and something to reflect upon. But what difference have you made in the world? Like, what have you done to make the world a better place? And truly being able to help folks find physical community, neighborhoods, and society, community, right? That is there physically for them to come and enjoy. We've done that, and we are doing that. And that is exceptionally fulfilling and significant. And is what motivates me to get up every morning and run those 80, 100-hour weeks and get the job done, because I love what I do, and I wouldn't do anything different. I mean, truly, I wouldn't do anything different than I'm doing today, because what I'm doing, I believe, carries incredible significance in the world, and it's awesome. It's truly awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the comparison of, I just heard Tony Robbins talk about this recently, but we all go through this cycle of, or maybe not all, but relatively speaking, there's the scarcity cycle where you're in a phase where maybe you're just trying to do everything you can to survive. Then you get to a level where it's like, okay, my needs are met. Okay, now I can pursue what gives me pleasure. Okay, now I can pursue what brings me joy of achievement. But then after that, it's the achievement joy only lasts 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months at the most. And then all of a sudden it's, what am I going to do to fulfill myself every day when I wake up? And you just talked about being fulfilled every day when you wake up, which is huge. And it's pretty clear. You're clear on who you've been called to serve on this mission that, God has given you. And
Absolutely.
And that's actually the final step, is getting closer to God or a higher self spiritually. So maybe you can tell us about what that looks like for you. But before I do, you mentioned community and bringing people together. And this is my pitch, because you don't even need to say it, but like, Mike has aggregated multiple communities, to my knowledge, of like-minded individuals all throughout Central and South America. I'm very interested as well as in potentially having some property or living there one day. So I know there's something cool going on in Nicaragua right now, but you've also got a track record of a lot of other success stories. So kind of just talk to our audience about if they want to pursue a life living in a like-minded community, like what we've talked about here. How do they do that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, hit that same email. Let's just keep the email address the same. It's easy, liberland@ecidevelopment.com. And if you just want to say something like, actually, what I would almost, please, this is a free resource. It's not a sales document. This is the Consumer Resource Guide. Please, if you're watching this, request the Consumer Resource Guide. If you have any thought that you might ever do something overseas or outside your home country, you absolutely need this book. Please trust me on that. It's 26 years of tuition paid, millions of dollars of tuition that we've paid, screwing up, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and putting that down on paper. First, it started out for me. I did it for me for the first 3 years, 4 years, right? I'm documenting that one. Well, that was a doozy, right? What did I learn, right? And so, but then it became quickly apparent that this would actually be a great document for other people too. So we turned it into the Consumer Resource Guide. If you just say Consumer Guide in the subject line, or if you want the President's Week invite and the consumer, just write it all in there, whatever. Liberland@ecidevelopment.com. We'll send you a free copy of the Consumer Resource Guide. Phenomenal resource. And then the other thing is, if you're interested in learning about some of the communities that we built. I started in Belize with a mortgage company 29 years ago. I started our development company there, ECI Development, in 1996. So 26 years ago, our company's been around for 26 years. We work in Belize, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama.
It all started in Belize?
It all started in Belize 26
Wow, I
years.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Probably
we're
not
in
too long after it became the country of Belize then, right? It would have been British Honduras.
81. I can't do the math on that, but what, 15 years? Yeah, 15
Okay,
years after
yeah.
it became
Wow.
Belize. Yeah, right. But so now we're in 7 countries, and mostly in Latin America, but Portugal as well, because a lot of folks are looking for that. A lot of U.S. folks want the European residency. I think maybe that's sort of out of the fire and out of the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. But whatever, people want it, and we serve people where they want to live. But Nicaragua, I lived there for 14 years, and truly, of all the countries we work in, it is by far the most free country. They are so un-nanny state. When COVID came along, they did not lock down. They left it up to the individuals or the businesses. If you had a restaurant, you wanted to close. You want to spread your tables out, spread your tables out. You want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You don't want a mask, don't wear a mask.
Love it.
It was, yeah, right. It was the one country that really just said, hey, you guys are adults, like, deal with it, right? And some people did close their businesses, and some people did wear masks, but it was never forced, right? And to me, that's exactly what freedom's about. It's freedom of choice. So anyway, so I'm a big fan of Nicaragua from the freedom standpoint, and also quality of life, cost of living. Lived there for 14 years, raised our daughters there, and just had an incredible quality of life, cost of living. It depends on what part of the U.S. you're from, but sort of the heartland of America, not New York, not San Francisco, just kind of like the Midwest. It is 1/3 or 1/4 the cost of living price. You can have an incredible lifestyle on $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. Unless you spend as much money as you want, but like if you lived there and you wanted to eat organic fruits and vegetables, fresh fish out of the ocean, free range beef, you wanted to go to the movies a bunch of nights, if you wanted to do all that and you had $1,500, $2,000 a month, like you'd have money left over at the end of the month. It is so inexpensive. And then, the weather's great, the people are wonderful, and it's a very free society. And what we've done is we've built a beach community about an hour west of the capital city in the main airport in Managua. And we've built neighborhoods. We have 2 neighborhoods that are pretty specific. They were promoted at a conference where you and I met, Jeff Berwick's Anarchapulco. So they were promoted by Jeff, and I think a large number of the folks that bought those homes came from Jeff or that network. Let's call it that, because it's not just Jeff. And we've been approached by someone to build an EMF, electromagnetic frequency free neighborhood, which we're working on right now. So we'll have an EMF free neighborhood there as well. And we've already done the meter readings, and we know it works. So we did all the measurements with the EMF meters and things like that. So it's there's some good stuff going on. But again, you're going to be around people who care about freedom, who care about those kinds of important issues. And so you'll have neighbors and friends who actually, really can relate to, and they can relate to you. Yeah.
I have a funny first world question for you. Here you get all the time. How's the Wi-Fi?
Well, okay. Wi-Fi is pretty good. We back in 2004, we actually put in the first fiber to the home network in all of Central America at Grand Pacifica. And it's the reason this EMF group or EMF free group has approached us, because we have fiber, we have the ability to run a fiber cable to every home in this neighborhood, hardwire the homes so there is no Wi-Fi, right? And they're going to have, it's fiber. So how much bandwidth do you want? And so we actually, because we put in this, it's a very sophisticated system. And so we can deliver pretty much any bandwidth somebody wants, from very little to, giant pipe of bandwidth right to somebody's home over the fiber network that we have there. So yeah, internet's really good. We have Wi-Fi areas. Some of our neighborhoods are Wi-Fi. This neighborhood will not be, very specifically will not be. It'll all be fiber and hardwired inside the homes. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. So as far as because there's another community there that's not EMF free focused, correct? It's another
We-
community that you've built.
Yeah, correct. It's a pretty standard neighborhood, just, normal homes and condominiums. And then we have a small eco home area that we call them tiny homes. They're anywhere from 450 to about 600 square feet inside, but livable space, because in the tropics, you have beautiful rooftop terraces covered with shade, right? And they're solar. So you have the solar panels up top, provide shade on the rooftop. You end up with between 1,000 and 1,500 feet of livable outdoor, livable space, indoor, outdoor. And so these homes, about 100 of those are off the grid, and they're ocean view in many cases, not in all cases, but many of those 100 are ocean view, about 100 yards from the ocean. And then we have an ocean front phase that are hybrid. They're both solar and on the grid, and right there, ocean front on the Pacific Ocean. Right? Yeah.
Awesome. And then as far as, I know you mentioned food, groceries, like that type of thing. Are there any name brand things nearby, or is it mostly market that you go to purchase goods? Like, what is, kind of like even like the Amazon effect too? I'm just thinking like what somebody who's used to living in North America, things that they might not think about until they get to Nicaragua. So
right. Well, and we've put together a nice guidebook that helps people, like, it's sort of when you become an owner, when you become a neighbor, like, how do you transition in to reduce culture shock? There's no way to avoid it. When you move to a foreign country, I don't care if you're going from the US to Canada, there'll be a tiny bit of, culture shock, not a lot, a little bit, right? But when you move to a developing country from a developed country, yeah, there's culture shock. But we've figured out some ways to help people, at least anticipate it, maybe not mitigate it, but anticipate it, which does in some senses mitigate it too, right? But think about this for a second. So, there's Price Mart, which is basically like our Costco in the United States. So you have those big box, there's Walmart. So if you like to shop at Walmart, there's a Walmart, and there's a Price Mart, Costco kind of big, whatever, warehouse store, whatever you want to call that. They have a giant Cinsa, which is like our Home Depot. In fact, if you walked into it and somebody blocked out the sign on the front, you looked around, you go, yep, that's a Home Depot. So, I mean, there's all of that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. If you like, if you go, and then the grocery stores, and I always use the joke that, if you want goat cheese from France and those seaweed sushi wrappers, no problem. I mean, you can get all that. I mean, pate. I mean, whatever you want. Like, you can really literally get almost any kind of food product grocery stores, the main big grocery stores. But if you want to eat organic, okay, which is where the quality of life comes in. Like, so my joke is, if you go down to Whole Paycheck and you decide you want to buy two tomatoes, right, or Whole Foods, but I call it Whole Paycheck, right? 2 tomatoes might be, $8-10, right? When we lived in Managua, we had a coffee sack of organic fruits and vegetables delivered to our house every Tuesday morning, full of organic fruits and vegetables, and it was $8. Adam, we couldn't eat it all in a week. We'd give it to our maid, we give it to our friends. I mean, I take it to work and give some of it away, depending on what it was and whatever, right? I mean, there was more than our family of 4 could consume, organic fruits and vegetables for $8. And it came from this farm up in the mountains, this coffee farm. And so they would put in cheese and meat, free range, hormone free, free range meats, and because Grand Pacific, and we lived in Managua, right? And Grand Pacific is about 45 minutes away. So we'd go out to Grand Pacific, and my wife would see the fishermen. The fishermen would come up 3 or 4 days a week and sell fresh fish right off the boat to the restaurant. And we would time it so we'd be out there on one of those days. And my wife would get fresh fish right out of the ocean, right? I mean, that morning. And so, right. I mean, and $8 for this, and then you throw in the meats and the cheese and the eggs, and right. I mean, so you can eat organic, free range, hormone free, all of that for probably half, probably less than half of what normal groceries go for. And if you compared it to whole paycheck, I mean, it might be 10 times more at Whole Paycheck than it would be in Nicaragua for the same kind of stuff. But again, if you said, I want Cheerios, I'm just
Cheerios. Not realizing the joke with Whole Paycheck. That's good.
Sorry. Yeah, right. But hey, you want Fruit Loops? No problem. They have Fruit Loops. You can go buy Fruit Loops, right? I mean,
yeah.
What do you want, right? What do you want? Yeah. anyway.
Well, there you go,
Sorry.
guys.
Yeah, Whole Foods, whole paycheck. Yeah.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I'm gonna take that one. Awesome. So I guess last thing here in regards to Liberland, and we've crossed paths here a few times, and we really appreciate all the support and interaction that you've provided being a part of this community. And I guess I never asked you. I'm assuming you are a citizen as well. You got your
No,
Liberland.
I'm not. Nope,
Wow.
I'm
All
not.
right. Well,
No, but Veet. In fact, when I spoke on the Danube cruise, Veet's like, "Yeah, we're going to make you a citizen."
we got to get
He
you your
gets busy.
passport.
I know. He gets busy. I get busy. In fact, we're going to see each other in Prague this weekend. We're going to have dinner together. I think Saturday or Sunday night. I can't remember. But yeah, you know what? I would love to be a citizen of Liberland, but at the same time, like I am.
You already are. Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
By default.
Yeah.
So I guess that is my last question here for you is, with what you see transpiring within Liberland right now, what is something that you would like to see happen or see more of just within the Liberland community?
You know what? Wow, Adam, great question. So Veet and I have been talking a lot. So Veet and I got to know each other over the last maybe 4 or 5 years at in Acapulco. We'd see each other, that maybe a couple of, I can't remember, other conferences. We'd bump into each other and we talked, and we just enjoyed one another's company, right? And whatever, business, no business, it didn't matter, right? But we started really talking about synergies between what Liberland is and what he wants to accomplish, and who we are and what we are accomplishing and we want to accomplish. And so, between, what he's doing and what we're doing, right, there's definitely some synergies in the middle. And one of the ideas that Veet had, and is something that we're really going to pursue, is working with him to build some communities. He had a piece of property in mind. I don't think this one panned out, but he had a piece of property in mind in the Dominican Republic. We don't work there. And he wanted to buy it, and he wanted to build a community there. Well, he's not a developer, and we are a developer. So there, again, he would like to have communities for the citizens of Liberland, and think about it as diaspora, right? I mean, we'd all like to own something, and I will own something in Liberland proper at some point, and we may even do some of the development there. Although I've got to say, the architectural and development firm that he brought in, they are world class. I mean, they're the big shots. We're just a peanut in the business. We are truly. People ask me all the time, Mike, why don't you work in the U.S. or I'm like, because I'm a peanut and I don't want to compete in that level of play, right? I'm good in my space, very good in my space, but I'm just stay here. I'm good where I am, and I'm not, not too ambitious. I think we can do a lot of great things where we are. And there are other people like the folks that V, I can't remember the name of the firm, but I met with them when we were in Serbia earlier in the year. I knew them beforehand, but anyway, to actually meet them and talk with them, these guys are world class. So what they're going to do there is exceptionally special, and maybe we will develop some part of that at some point in the future. But I think the diaspora idea is really important, that we can have these communities, because not everybody wants to live in Serbia, like Serbia, Croatia, in the middle of the Danube. I mean, it's cold there in the wintertime, right? So I think other right. It is what it is. So I think, other people want to live different places, but if we can build the physical community of Liberlanders, right, of a freedom-loving community, however we identify ourselves, we can create these very special places where we enjoy being around the people who are part of this community with us. And I think Veet really sees that we've done this, we continue to do this, and that as someone who can help him carry his vision out to these other places, like the Dominican Republic or other locations that are of interest to him specifically, or Liberland, specifically, we will certainly be a part of that. So we're really, really happy to be working with everyone, Peter and Naveed and the whole gang, Tom and Bogey. I mean, all those guys. I mean, you, Adam. It's just nice to be. Look, it's nice to work with great people. And I've got to say that you guys have put together an incredible team. I would call it a team, but I understand it's president and cabinet and all that kind of stuff, but to be more formal. But at the end of the day, you guys are incredible human beings, and to work with excellence is always a pleasure. And that's one thing I've got to say about, Veet and the people that he works with, that he surrounded himself with. It is truly a group of people committed to excellence, and that means everything to me. That absolutely means everything to me. So it's just truly an honor to work with you guys and see where it goes. I mean, we're just kind of nibbling at the edges of it right now. It's very exciting, It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And I think oftentimes people forget that countries typically aren't built within less than 10 years. It takes some time. So
my goodness. Right.
How far we've come in 7 years is pretty impressive. And the last thing I'll mention here, because I know you talked about the physical location of Liberland, but we're coming up on the end of the year, which I don't know the exact terminology here, but I know something to do with the Schengen area. Some rules change, I guess. I don't know if you're aware of this, but
nope.
Yeah, there's something between this line drawn in the sand between Croatia and Serbia. It's referred to as the Schengen area, the world's largest visa-free zone. I'm looking at it right now. Something changes coming into January 2023 that is going to enable Liberland's physical buildings to become that much more realistic. And I wish I had the exact data for you, but yeah, I would recommend looking into it. I'm sure whoever's listening to this interview, if you want to put in the comments the details of what I'm attempting to refer to here, that'd be very helpful, actually. So yeah,
that's great. Well, I will make sure I ask Veet about it this weekend.
It's coming soon.
Thank you.
So yeah. ECI development might have the first neighborhood in Liberland, honestly.
But hey, we would be honored. I mean, that would be phenomenal. We don't work in Europe. I actually, let me just say that I'd be honored to be asked, but the truth is that we would not do an excellent job there, because we would be doing it for the first time. And the first time you do anything, you make a lot of mistakes. My counsel to Veet would be, find somebody else who's developed in Serbia, who's developed in Croatia, right? And I'm happy to counsel and be, advisor to that, right? But truly, that would make a lot more sense to find somebody who knows that environment from a business development, construction standpoint, certainly early on to get it rolling. But that is exciting. That's very exciting.
It is. Yeah, we're going to see some cool things take place between now and definitely the 8th anniversary. Am I getting that right? Wow. Yeah. The 8th anniversary coming up soon, April 2023, guys, get ready. Well, thank you all for listening and joining us here today with Mike Cobb of ECI Development. Go ahead and remind you, if we haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this message with your friends, your family, let them know Liberland continues to grow and to scale. And Mike, go ahead and give our audience one more time the call to action. Where can they go if they want to hang out with you in person here pretty soon?
Yeah, come to Vegas, November 12 to 16 for Joel Nagel's President's Week, 26th Annual President's Week. The email is liberland@ecidevelopment.com. Shoot me a note. I'll make sure you get an invitation. If you want the consumer guide or any information about what we're doing, just stick that in there too, and we'll get back to everybody within a day or two. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. All right, Mike, thank you for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time. Same goes for everyone tuned in. Thank you for investing your time as well. Any parting words, Mike?
No, Adam, great to be with you, and look forward to the next time. Yeah,
absolutely. Likewise. All right, guys, this has been another episode of the Liberland Show. I'm your host, Adam J. Carswell. That was Mike Cobb, again, of ECI Development. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next episode.